the Cosmic Librarian podcast, your source for spiritual and holistic wisdom. I'm Lilly, the Cosmic Librarian, coming to you every week with a wealth of spiritual, metaphysical, and holistic information. Join me to expand your horizons of universal understanding and to get free literary gifts. Yes, I'll be giving away every book that I feature on my show. If you want to heal your body, mind, and spirit, if you want to manifest miracles into your life, if you want to learn the wisdom and secrets of the universe, if you want to delve into spirituality so that you can become a better human, and if you want free books, you've come to the right place. Welcome back, Cosmic Explorers. This episode is all about a book that changed my life so profoundly that I'm going to dedicate this episode to telling you my story of how I stumbled across this book and how it led to where I am today. I'm going to start about 20 years ago. Now, I'm not trying to get too deep into my past, but we got to take a little trip back to the early 2000s to understand where I'm coming from. So imagine young Lilly just switched majors from psychology to creative writing with the dreams of becoming the next Jack Kerouac. And fresh out of college, instead of going and traveling the world and being a lazy bum like my dad told me I was going to be, I ended up being married and having to get a job. So I started working for a local newspaper, writing obituaries and wedding announcements. Now, it sounds like the obituaries might be the less fun part and the wedding announcements might be the more fun part, but believe me, the opposite was actually true. But the best part about that job was that I learned graphic design. It was just something that I had to do in order to format photos for the newspaper. So I started using Photoshop. I started learning a little bit during my free time and doing things as I went along, just for fun. And a few years later, my mom asked me if she could enlist my services to design books for her. She had written a few books and she wanted to self-publish them. So she asked me, can you put together a book cover and an interior for me? And I said, well, I'm sure I could figure it out. And I started learning everything I could about books, how they're structured, how they're formatted, everything about the self-publishing industry. For the next 10 years, I worked with all sorts of different clients. I published over 40 books and with dozens of clients from all over the country. In 2019, I started needing a little bit more stability in my life. So I looked for jobs in publishing. And most of the publishing jobs are in New York City, San Francisco, Boston, and different places in the world. I live in San Diego, but I was applying everywhere. I was using local addresses, applying for every position with every company that I was even remotely qualified for. And I could not even get a call back. You guys, they didn't think that my 10 years of self-publishing was real experience. It was basically as if I was starting out completely brand new in the industry. So I was frustrated. And it was almost a year that I'd been looking for a job, and I just needed a job. I needed to work. So I took a shitty position at a local used donation-based bookstore. And it was grueling, low-income work. And I had to be available 7 days a week, mornings and evenings. I was in management. And it was still just this incredibly hard job. And I hated every minute of it. Thank God for the pandemic, because I ended up taking almost a year off because of that in 2020. But towards the end of 2020, I had to start working there again. So one of the few perks of the job was that I got to check out books. And I would usually peruse the self-help and spiritual and metaphysical books as they would come in from the donations. And one day around this time last year, I found a book while going through the donations. And it's called Wishes Fulfilled, Mastering the Art of Manifesting by Dr. Dyer. I had heard of him, but I hadn't read any of his books. And I kind of knew he was a good, I don't want to say guru, but he was one of the main guys when you talk about manifesting. So I wanted to read the book. I checked it out. And I knew a little about manifesting. I had done a few things in my lifetime magically, kind of like moving here to California. And there were a few other things throughout my life that kind of just like, poof, happened. But I really didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't used any intention to manifest things. It just kind of happened. So I was intrigued that this was something that could be, quote, mastered. And I started reading. I was so interested in what I read, I decided to start implementing the practices he talked about. And I went into work joking with the coworkers, you will know if this book works when you see me quit my job. And it was said as a joke, but I ended up quitting my job less than 2 weeks later. What he talks about in this book is so unexpected and made me very, very uncomfortable. Now, I want to tell you, I grew up believing in certain kind of spirituality based on religion, and I had expanded my mind to believe in other forms of spirituality. So when I opened up this book and saw a bunch of Bible verses, I was like, oh man, this is not the business. And I can already hear some of you groaning from here. Believe me, I felt the same way. Bible verses, okay, in a manifesting book. Like, what do these two things have to do with each other? I was raised Mormon and later became an evangelical Christian and then later renounced both of those. Became a rational human who thinks for myself. So reading a book filled with Bible verses literally made my stomach churn a little bit. I am not going to lie. However, I know that many of the basic tenets of Christianity are true. So I decided to keep an open mind and not discount the entire book just because I didn't like the language he used to convey the message. And seeing as how it was likely written for Christian people just learning to expand their thinking, I gave him a little bit of leeway. I was like, okay, I'll read the book. And I am so glad that I did. Because he talks about how becoming one with the universe, or source, or God, if you will, is the basic principle behind manifesting. And that was something that totally blew my mind because I never really thought about it like that. I was like, oh yeah, I'm one with God. I'm one with the universe. But he breaks it down and he's like, this is why you are one with God. This is why you feel powerless at certain times because you were taught this certain thing. But here's what is really said in the Bible, and here's what is really said in all these other scriptures, and here's what's really true. And once you discover and then accept and then fully embody your godhood, you can literally make miracles happen instantly. I didn't believe it before I read it, but it's happened. And it's been true in my life ever since then. And of course, no one goes from being, just a basic human to realizing they're God in a few hours of reading a book, okay? Not without at least a trip to the psychiatric ward, okay? This is a process that happens over time, and it takes steps to get you there. And the amazing thing is that Dr. Dyer goes over each part of the process. He gives you the steps to take, starting with trusting in divine timing, to taking action when it's time, to fully embodying your godhood. And now here was the cool part. So I'm reading this book, right? I'm loving this book. Most of the parts about the book. There was a part I got to. Here was my disclaimer about the old version of the book. I got to a part that I didn't like, that he starts talking about a man named John of God, who was a Brazilian faith healer, who was also later arrested for sexual misconduct. So later editions of the book, the current edition, the one that I'm giving away, has all references to John of God removed. But the version I had read previously that I got at this used bookstore was an older version, still had John of God in there. So when I got to that part, I was like, oh, I don't want to read this anymore because I don't like John of God, obviously. So very happy to find out that that has all been removed now. Back to my story. Because I'm in publishing, I had been applying to jobs everywhere. I made it a habit to check the publisher on the books I was reading. Most of them I'd already applied to. Most of them I had been on their email lists forever. Penguin and Houghton Mifflin and Scholastic and, all of these major publishers. But I took this book and looked in the front cover and saw on the title page, Hay House, Carlsbad, California. And I just about lost my mind because I knew of Hay House. I had a bunch of card decks from them, but I had never checked where they were located. And it turns out Carlsbad is just an hour north of where I live in southern San Diego. I had been applying to jobs all over the country. And one of my favorite publishing houses was in my backyard. I couldn't believe it. Hay House is, if you haven't heard of them before, one of the #1 spiritual publishing houses in the world. They were founded by an amazing woman named Louise Hay, who we will talk about in the next episode, where we discuss her breakthrough book that built this global influence. Anyway, back to my story. So I go online, I check their website, and what do you know? There is a position in the art department that exactly matched my qualifications. Like every single skill and experience that I had been doing for the last 10 years was on their list. It was like one of those moments where I felt the stars and the planets align, and I knew this was my job, that this position was created for me. And I was more than happy to be done with the crappy retail job. But unfortunately, my website had just been hacked, and I had to recreate my entire portfolio and update my resume before I could even apply for the job. And the crappy retail job took up so much of my time and energy, there was no way I could work and take care of my home responsibilities. By the way, I have 4 kids, 3 of whom live with me full time, and also work on my website. I needed a break. And as I learned, ask and you will receive. Days later, my kid's babysitter got injured, and she told me she needed surgery in 4 days, and I would have to take off 3 days of work that weekend until she was well enough. So I asked my boss, can I have this weekend off? And she said no. Right then and there, I decided I was not going to work there anymore. I wrote up my notice and handed it in the next day. Because honestly, I had been working for free. Like, this job didn't pay very well. I was driving all over the place to get there. After paying for daycare and gas, I didn't even have enough left to pay my whole car payment, much less contribute my half of the rent. So it wasn't even worth my time. I was doing them a favor by working them, and then they told me I couldn't take time off to take care of my own kids. So I just handed in my letter. And even when they offered me, oh, no, now you can have the weekend off, I stood my ground and I said, no, thank you. I knew there was something better for me. So I took that very last little bit of unemployment that we got for the pandemic, and I spent that month building my portfolio, updating my resume, and I applied for that job. I never had a single doubt in my mind that that job was mine, just like the book taught me. And when they called me for that interview, I knew I was hired. Now I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary, and this is literally my dream job. I get to work with books all day long. I get to read spiritual books for free. I mean, the information that I get to receive, just the little bits and pieces that I get in my job, because I'm working on hundreds of books a month, just the little bits that I get to read are mind-blowing. It's like always the message I need right at that time. And so one of the consequences of the pandemic was that they had all of our employees that weren't needed on site working remotely. And after the first few months, they realized it was actually way better for the company and for the employees. Morale was up, costs were down, everybody was doing great. So a couple months ago, they decided to close the headquarters branch office, the big branch, downsize it to a smaller branch and just have a warehouse. And they have all these people cleaning out their offices, and they've been working there for years and years and years and have hundreds of books, and they just can't take them home because they have so many more books at home because they've been working here for decades. Everyone's just been piling up their books in the reception area. So I went up there one day to go get some equipment because they're, like, again, trying to get rid of everything. And they told me, the receptionist and some of the people said, oh, yeah, take some books. Take as many as you want. We got to get rid of these. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll rifle through these books. I'll take a few here and there. Looks good. I took 2 boxes of books, and I was pretty happy with that. I'm like, okay, I could use these books, or I could give a few away to my friends. And then I went back a second time because they had found a specific book that I needed to work on for my job. So I took another trip up to Carlsbad, and there were more books. They were everywhere. The receptionist walked me around the office saying, here's more books, here's card decks, here's more books, here's more. There's multiple boxes and boxes of the same books. Take as many as you want. And I was like, I will. Okay. If you say take as many as you want, I will take as many as I want. I literally loaded up the back of my car with everybody's full permission, with the sole intent of giving all these books away. Because literally that's what they were going to do. They're going to give the books away as well. They don't have any reason to try to sell these extra copies. Some of them are just overstock. Some of them are like very slightly damaged or like misprinted. So you can barely even notice that they are, but like they couldn't be sold because they were imperfect. There's really nothing wrong with any of these. Some are like older versions that are a little out of date, or maybe have old ads in the back, but they're not bad books. They're all amazing books. They're great books, and they're free. So I wanted to figure out a way to get them all out of my house. Because after I loaded them up, I realized once I got home, my house partner was going to flip out. He already is like, Lily, you have too much shit. And it's true, okay? I do have too much shit. However, these are books, okay? Free books. What am I supposed to do? They gave me free books. What are you going to do? So I was like, oh, what am I going to do? All the drive home, I had a whole hour to sit there and think about it. And I was like, the podcast. I've been thinking about doing a podcast forever, but I was like, what am I going to do a podcast about? I like spirituality, and I like publishing, and I like books, but what am I going to talk about? And then it like hit me like, do a podcast about all these books and the way that they've changed your life, and then give the books away, and then get rid of them. I was like, thank you, universe, for giving me that little slice of wisdom that I needed. So I created this podcast. This is my vehicle for redistributing the wealth of information that I was blessed with. And with the books I have, literally every self-help, spiritual topic is covered, metaphysical topics, holistic health, cosmic messages from the universe, how to be a witch, plant wisdom, psychology, brain function, how to organize your house. Yeah, I really should probably start with that one, right? How to heal your body, mind, spirit, how to retire successfully, how to build an online business. They talk about everything that you could possibly need to be a better human. And I just want so much to give this away to you. So, you ready? Drum roll. I am going to start with a copy of Wishes Fulfilled. I got a new copy of it. Like I said, it's an updated edition, removing all references of sexual predators. And I'm going to give a copy to one person. Here's how my giveaways are going to work. So this is the first giveaway. I'm going to explain it. And I'm going to give you a little explanation every time I do a giveaway. But here's what we're going to do. I have a set number of copies of each one of the books. And they're going to be given away on a first come, first served basis. So once all copies of the book have been distributed, it's not going to be available anymore. Here's how to claim your copy. You'll go to my website, lillypenhall.us. That's LILLYPENHALL.us. You're going to choose the book you want to receive. The price will be free. All you pay for is shipping via media mail, which is usually less than $10. So I have one copy of Wishes Fulfilled. Go to my website and see if you're the one who's going to claim it. If not, don't worry. There are still going to be so many chances to get a free copy of a life-changing book. Just like next week, I'm going to be talking about the book that put the founder of Hay House, Louise Hay, on the map. And spoiler alert, she was in her 60s when she wrote it. So, my cosmic explorers, I cannot wait to take you on another adventure next week. I'm Lilly, the Cosmic Librarian, signing off. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Librarian podcast. Tune in next week for another chance to claim a free book about spirituality and holistic wisdom. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share this podcast with your book-loving friends. When we share, everyone wins.